counting to 10. So the buffering introduction doesn't get um, shortchanged or whatever. And so for the recent rant, the recent spew, the recent mini discourse with some type of keen leaning into an intellectual field that incorporates and includes our connection, ourselves connection with the genuine esoteric predecessors, and obviously that will be unique subjectively. What is unique subjectively? To some level of growth within, as you have some type of new growth progression, new degrees of different types of growth will give you new degrees of more clarity and less confusion, but not to be confused with rushing growth. So obviously, it's not obvious that there's a comprehension curve, because there's always something to improve. There's always something to relearn or newly learn. So on a standard level, I'm not docking the comprehension curve. I'm just showcasing the comprehension curve. And I know you could standardly translate this, and it can be clear for anybody speaking a different language that could give me a potential side eye / side ear, like parentheses, what is he saying, end parentheses, right? So obviously I'm gonna quote unquote rely that there will be sensible, genuine translators. So that minor issue, I give no worry, right? Moving along. There's different themes. There's different avenues and themes of not just growth, but life as a whole, such as, just like a pool or a kitchen or some type of, like, it takes different ingredients to make something of an industry, right? Every industry has different components. Duh. So within that, the industry that has different components, there's a comprehension curve because the industry itself has room for growth and innovation. So I'm not docking negatively the comprehension curve. I'm not condescending the comprehension curve. But just because I'm professionally, maturely not condescending the comprehension curve, that does not mean the comprehension curve is not there. As a matter of fact, it's there more drastically than what we could think. The comprehension curve is there. Not good, not bad. And since the comprehension curve is there, that's an esoteric mind bug. What's an esoteric mind bug? Something that's lacking, a certain lack of a guiding hand that innovation hasn't necessarily caught up with, because there's a lack of innovation. What do I mean by a lack of innovation? Innovation not applied because of the comprehension learning curve. And obviously, to slow it down even more, that comprehension curve would then imply, what are you talking about? So it would be up to the quote unquote educator / communicator slash public speaker slash presenter to clear up the confusion. So what am I talking about, right? There's a comprehension curve. What is the comprehension curve? If a certain particular insight isn't highlighted based on a problem that's there, and for some reason, for some miraculous, crazy, blasphemous reason, the problem isn't necessarily critically, particularly highlighted, then there's a lack of a particular insight slash repeating it, particular insight. So the particular insight is lost. Why is the particular insight lost? Not good, not bad, because for some reason the collective intelligence just hasn't necessarily been educated by particular advanced predecessors to see the bugs in things, right? So if we don't have a mature balance with seeing the bugs in a program at the government level and above the government level, the advanced matrix level, then if we don't highlight those bugs, the bugs don't get fucking fixed, right? So if the bugs don't get fucking fixed, and we're harating and applauding and hoop hollering all of this rhetoric, and we're saying AI could do something when it's not necessarily doing it authentically or genuinely, that's wasting time and innovation. And since we don't necessarily particularly know and comprehend that insight, that's the comprehension curve. Not good, not bad, not condescending. For some reason, for some very bizarre reason, the collective intelligence is lacking particular insights. Not good, not bad, no condescending. So there's a comprehension curve, more or less, and maybe it's not necessarily a comprehension curve because people could know what they're doing more or less. And as they know what they're doing more or less, you know, whether they know what they're doing or not, that's only like kind of like it only slides by how a certain government main protocol allows it to. What do I mean by that? Main government protocol allowing it to. The main government protocol could allow certain things and disallow certain things. It could be on the sly. It could be not on the sly. 20 years ago, you could rape this data without anybody fucking recognizing it, and you're okay. But the predecessors of advanced esoteric natures has educated us on critical thinking to see how we even get to have the essence of solutions to begin with. So let me slow it down even more. Based on the recent particular mini blog writings, and for me to insert this next sentence into the beginning of this particular message video, if I were to quote unquote edit this video, what would I put as the intro? Pause. What would I put as the intro of this video if I could casually re-edit it? Shout out to Iron Man 1 and 2, just randomly, right? So there's not good, not bad. There's a slowing down process to how different things are paused and weighted to the surface level, because I guess the surface level audience isn't necessarily ready for it. And we don't even know what we're waiting for. What do I mean? What do I mean to back it up? So the first sentence that I would put if I were to casually, slyly re-edit this message video would be what? Pause. What would be the solution? Pause. For the recent mini blog cause concern? What would be a solution for the recent concern you are writing about and inquiring about? Pause. I already discoursed enough of what I discoursed, but to bring it even more further and critically, pause. What would be a solution for everything you've just said within the last 10 minutes? What would be a solution for everything you've written within the past 5 to 4 posts or whatever the fuck? Pause. What would be a real, valid, legitimate, technological innovation solution for problems not detected, problems not highlighted, problems going over your fucking favorite tech CEO's head, and they're having their own habitual mental lack of intelligence habit samskaras based on they think certain problems will just be, or they'll think like they'll think certain like lack of solutions will always be there. What do I mean by lack of solutions that will always be there? Well, there's the collective tech scene having collective bugs. Some people favor those bugs because they could capitalize off those bugs, and they could, not good, not bad, they could have some type of disaligned looshing mechanism. Most advanced esoteric intelligence in the galaxy on the underground, and you tech CEOs are neutrally afraid. Period. So what am I saying? What am I saying? It's like there's a solution. People have old mental habits where they're not good, not bad in advanced esoteric intelligence. Their demon self could be okay with detrimental bugs in the tech field. The number one advanced esoteric intelligence in the galaxy, hands down, you pussies. Little do you know, with your unawareness, some tech CEOs, this is esoteric tech, right? And some tech CEOs, little to your lack of intelligence awareness, they could be okay with some bugs, because within those bugs, those collective tech field bugs, they waste time. They could lose your energy casually, not good, not bad. Because I'm not saying the exchange of energy, that's a context of loosh, but the exchange of energy, it's not good, not bad, but it could be, right? So the exchange of energy, one context of that neutrally is a loosh, and the loosh isn't good and bad. The exchange of energy is not good and bad. It's not what you do, it's how you motherfucking do it, kids. So within saying that, maybe little to your awareness and intelligence on their deep subconscious demon self, they're okay with bugs, lack of solutions, because in the old guard, that's how they capitalize and benefit off their energy. So there's a lack of highlighted solutions within basic, obvious, not so obvious tech problems, and they're okay with letting tech problems be flowing and riding in the scene because they think they could get away with detrimental lack of solutions casually on the advanced intellectual innovation level. So what am I saying? Pause. So if I were to start this conversation over and I would want to reintroduce it, what would be the best way for me to reintroduce it? What is the solution? What is a spiritual solution for these tech bugs that I'm talking about? Pause. So pause again, because what I'm about to reveal, for some reason, it only takes it just takes a lot of grace and a lot of God's miracles to preserve this intelligence and to low key preserve it all. So in all favor to God's children and team and agency. That's the shit that your favorite tech CEO is afraid of. And that's why they rely on the old guard. And that's why they rely on mental, intellectual habit, samskaras, habits, to think it's okay to have a tech bug be applauded and upheld however the fuck, while they could not fucking, while they could think they could just like steal data. And I'm not, and it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So I'm not like, I'm just saying it generally for a more advanced level, right? So if I were to restart this conversation, it would ask the question, what would be, well, what do you think obvious, not so obvious solution would be to everything that you're complaining about? What do you think that would be? Pause, pause, pause. What do you think that would mother flippin' be? Pause. So there's particular concerns that are being brought to the forefront, and as we're being re-enlightened to the particular obvious, not so obvious tech problems and governmental intellectual tech problems, and just the standard surface level of hypothetical 2030, because if this lack of innovation was still here in 2030, it would literally be energetically retarded. So let me start this conversation over. What would actually fix these problems in the tech politics shit? Everything that you guys are bitching about, respectively, respects to the energy, and your cognitive dissonance to a real fucking solution, most in the highest God respect. And God help you with why you keep fucking subscribing to your cognitive fucking dissonance, for fuck's sake. What would be a real palpable solution to the real problems in the tech politics and just the general tech infrastructure database scene, advanced, original, open source, and having a different God balance of Chat GPT, if you could read in between the lines? So what am I talking about here? Start the conversation over. What do you think would be a palpable solution to the problems in the tech politics and the general tech scene database infrastructures? Well, wouldn't you think, and it's not necessarily hypothetical if you say it's hypothetical. What am I talking about? Predecessors, and even you too, in your dreams, you could quote unquote, not quote unquote, travel through time. You could quote unquote, not quote unquote, you could jump into the future, right? With testimonies from fucking 2016, right? So within testimonies from 2016 and 2012, all across the board, dummies, what do you think would be the solution to the fucking cognitive dissonant, retarded bullshit problems in tech politics and the basic tech industry scene? What do you think would be a prominent, advanced, spiritual solution? Pause. It would be it would be a different timeline, a future timeline. Why would that be the most advanced solution? Because the future timeline would be able to see what is fucking sketch as fuck and what's not sketch as fuck. What was the original solution with particular God execution implemented, and what was the most advanced particular opposition to that quote unquote godly execution. So all of you tech CEOs are pussies, and neutral Switzerland Supreme Courts will fucking get to the bottom of this on an advanced neutral level, period. And And I don't see anybody having balanced intellectual logic to combat this, because overall, this is the number one intelligence in the galaxy. And you guys and some of you tech CEOs proven within the energetic, esoteric, logical paint, you guys are okay with problems because you guys have some scar mental habits of the old guard. So how would I quote unquote solve the problem for real though, on some like non-hype shit, non-fluff shit, and seeing how the copy paste fucking regurgitated shit gets their 1-2, and you not fucking paying dividends just for you, like, you know, looshing data in any way you will. And I'm not necessarily concerned with that because, you know, that's a natural evolution thing. I'm just concerned with like how people, but that could be a concern to a different corner of the fucking tech roundtable, right? It just depends on what your intellectual taste is and your intellectual flavor is. So there's a lack of solutions within tech bugs in the modern day tech field. And tech CEOs have a comprehension learning curve. It's either their cognitive dissonance, it's either they're unaware because respectively their intellectualness hasn't caught up to just some obvious problem, no judgment, because it's a different type of general natural maturity. And it's saying like there's just a lack of an awareness, there's a lack of an intelligence, there's a lack of a particular solution to a particular obvious, not so obvious problems on what would be a palpable solution to these tech problems, any tech problems in any fucking tech court case. Well, with advanced spiritual predecessors from 2012 to 2016 growing up to whatever the fuck this dumbass intellectual shit show in tech politics is that has extreme cognitive dissonance, which is equates to advanced galactic retardation. We would have to gather testimonies on how the solution is actually more spiritually realistic than we think. What does that fucking mean? Spiritual realistic. There are talented people in the collective spiritual community that could go to the future and go to a different timeline. So if there's a different timeline that's more advanced than this timeline, and that timeline has been watching this timeline, and it could see what's fucked up, and that timeline is telling us this timeline what's fucked up, and that timeline is proving the solution to this problem, all the problems in this timeline, and we're seeing a different credible testimony of a different timeline telling us how this timeline is fucked up. Shout out the Chinese president that is new to this advanced fucking 2095 logic. Hella, for real. Shout out to fucking Z, JP, whatever. And there's millions of Z's. Not just Chinese, but still respect within the grand sociology experiment of fucking life, right? So going back to the previous point, if there's a different timeline, and maybe it could be some of us from a different future, some of us are coming from a different future, and I know it sounds like science fiction, but with proper galactic testimonies, whoever says it's science fiction, you're stupid, because we have a different field of testimonies now, dummy. So not one person on the planet could debate me for real. And your apprehension and your fear is recorded by the original galactic artificial intelligence, because We see why you're being apprehensive and how you're being apprehensive based on certain archonic controls or your petty cognitive dissonance or stubbornness program. So pause. What is the solution? The solution is seeing a different timeline explaining to us how there's problems and solutions that are lacking in 2026 and barely scratching the surface in 2027 if it's coming from legitimately with legitimate esoteric predecessors from a future quote unquote 2095, right? So within that shit fucking being said, we're seeing we could eventually gradually see we could eventually gradually see why there's this field of problems energetically. We could see how there's a field of intellectual problems. And the intellectual field obviously produces, creates, and not good, not bad, but could be, nourishes the material affairs. And it's the essence of the quality of the material affairs is from the intelligence, right? Xi Jinping, Chinese president. So this is balanced, neutral intelligence. I'm going to pause it right there, but I don't have to because I'm just in a different flow. So it's like, pause. We're seeing how gradually how a different future is explaining and balancing the problems in tech system most delicately, gracefully, and genuinely in a professional field of modern spiritual law before your fucking Andromedan council. You have the best life ever.